Well, we all know that the drug epidemic here in our area is a huge problem, but it's not just for older people, not just for adults, it's for younger people too, which is why there's a new initiative out to help those people.
We're joined now by a couple of different people who are here to talk about the problem and what can be done. This is David Gorley with the DEA and in West Virginia, and also Steve Klein with a Partnership for Drug-Free Kids. Thanks for coming in. I think it might be a shock for a lot of parents to think, not my Johnny, not my Jane. It's just, it's some other kid's problem. It's not our family, but it can affect all types of families, and especially in those teenage years.
It does indeed, and I think the national statistic is something like 80% of new heroin users got started with prescription medicine.
80%.
Correct. And so what we're trying to do, we've been invited by the DEA to participate in a new program that they have called DEA 360, and David can tell you a little more about it.
How's that work?
Well, DEA 360 is a new initiative that's rolling out from D.C. It's been in 4 cities last year, and Charleston is the 2nd city for 2017. It's basically an initiative that has 3 prongs. The first one being a partnership with the state and local law enforcement to try to target the people that are bringing the drugs into the state, not just on a local level, but working that back to some of our source cities and such, and going back to the cartels in Mexico, which precipitate violence, the overdoses, things like that. The second is a diversion phase where DEA is broken up into 2 parts, regulatory and enforcement side, where we're talking to the doctors, we're talking to the pharmacists, we're working with the wholesalers to try to monitor the drugs that are being put on the street that are not going to a legitimate purpose.
Sure. Yeah.
And then the third being one of the things that is new to us is, in our partnership with Steve here, is the community outreach, giving the message out, education, things of that nature.
So this actually sounds like the initiative will not only be focused completely on teens, that sounds like a lot of steps that will help everyone in this area. So let's talk specifically about teenagers, and of course they're playing sports at this time in their lives, so injuries are pretty common, surgeries are pretty common, so it can really start with those prescriptions. Should parents be afraid of their children being prescribed an opioid?
I wouldn't use the word afraid.
Okay.
I'd use the word aware. And I think one of the things that we encourage people to do is to ask. You know, if your son or daughter has an injury that may need to be taken care of, do they really need this pain medication? Could they get along with something that you could buy over the counter? Do they really need that surgery? Are there other, physical therapy, or are there other things that need to be done? I think being proactive is probably as good a term as any, and not just with a teen, with anybody. Should prescription meds be prescribed? They need to be monitored.
Right.
And
what are the symptoms that parents might look for if they even suspect that their child's starting to develop a dependency, or even something beyond that, a true addiction?
Well, I think part of the problem is a lot of those symptoms are the same symptoms of being a teenager.
Okay.
Sleep habits change, maybe your clothing changes, the friends you associate with, grades in school go down. Heroin specific would be to see if spoons are missing. You find a lot of burnt material around the house, that kind of stuff. I think it really means being vigilant, and I think part of the 360 effort is getting the message out to parents about what's going on in the communities. I know that a colleague of mine will be in town in a couple of weeks to do what we call train the trainer training, and that it's open to everybody. We hope you'll come and cover it. And the idea is to get the word out all around the state. We hope this will multiply. So if we train 100 trainers, they'll train 100 trainers, and they'll be able to go all around the state and really make a difference.
That'll be a cycle. That'll be great.
We're looking at doing that in Kanawha, Putnam, and in Cabell counties. We're going to try to do one in each county. And then we're also teaming with the Army National Guard Counter Drug Unit to do one for the guardsmen, because that way we touch a broad base of people throughout the community that can push that message back out as well.
Yeah, it really is just a case where the more information you have, the better off everyone will be in this sort of situation. Do you agree?
Educate yourselves, that's for sure.
Exactly.
All right, Steve, David, thank you both for coming in. A very important topic and something that I think all parents, because there are the other 20% who might be affected that don't start with opioids and with that addiction, that all parents need to be aware of this. That's for sure.
Do you see it more, I'm squeezing in one more question, do you see it more as starting as an opioid from a prescription addiction, or are teenagers more apt to go straight into heroin? Yeah.
Well, I think what we're seeing is that it starts with prescription meds. They're available in the home or from friends. They get them for free. Free supply runs out. They have to go on the street. The prescription meds on the street are very expensive.
Gotcha.
And heroin is relatively inexpensive.
All right.
One of the things we get coming up, April the 29th, is the National Drug Take Back Program, where people can bring in pharmaceuticals that they have in their house that they're not using anymore. No questions asked.
Good reminders.
We'll get rid of them.
All right. Thank you guys.
Thanks,
Very
guys.
great
Thanks
information.
for
Thank you.
That's for sure.